Mindfulness Collective. This right here, right now, is the joy of being alive. Stream come to you live from Brooklyn, New York. Lovely to be here with you folks. Exciting as always. Folks, today is a very special day. My favorite day of them all. Today is what's known as today. Okay, let's see here. Something's going on with my screen. It's getting a little wacky here. Why is it Giante? Okay, I'm very confused about this, but part of my screen is super blown up. So that's an interesting little... Oh, there we go. Fixed somehow. Don't know how. But folks, very excited to be here with you today. We are going to be going into a bit of a fun journey time, having a good time together, having some time to meditate, ask questions, hang out, have fun, and get along. We have our friend here who I can snap up. I got her. We've got our local mascot here, Sila. Sila's put on some extra adorable today, so she's very cute. Sila, do you see the... Oh, yeah, you want to take over, don't you? Yeah. You want to be the microphone? You want me to speak to you? Ah, hello, a follow from PB Jam. Welcome, nice to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us here on our community. As always, lovely to see you. This is our mascot. Oh, another follow from Shaking Out. Great to have you here. Glad to have you here. Oh, we got raided by Johnny Now. Hey, listen, Johnny Now, folks. Great to see you. Another follow by Matt Inc. Hey, guys, great to see you. Lovely. Oh, you guys are so sweet. Well, listen, we have a nice way of welcoming folks here. So anyone... Oh, Tyler, Boston. Very nice to see you here. So, folks, anyone who's been here before, you know what's up. Give a nice warm welcome to all our friends joining us here from Johnny Now's stream. Oh, Wilder surprise. I feel surprised. Thank you so much. Lovely to be here with you. It is such a groovy time, and we got Salad for Despair. Well, listen, hopefully we can support a little of that despair, that compare and despair attitude, that difficulty that we all have. iRocket, nice to see you here. Welcome for the good times. We're very happy that you're here. A little party in the chat. Good times, folks. Really happy that folks are here and we can say hello and y'all can see what, because I think some of you saw my stream the other day, and you can now actually, or you saw me rather on Johnny's stream doing the interview, and so now you can see my actual stream and realize this guy's not as interesting as I thought he was. And abandoned forever. Just kidding. Great to have folks here. Really happy we can have some time to hang out. Good times for all. So, folks, today is Freaky Friday. Today is lovely Jolas fam. Nice to have you here. Thank you so much for following. Today is Freaky Friday, and I'm going to tell you right now, this is how this works. Let's see. We are in Brooklyn. Salad of Despair says. Brooklyn is actually rainy. Used to live in Bedside. We're actually right next to Bedside. You said you're by Pratt? Well, guess what? We are 2 blocks away from Pratt. I probably shouldn't disclose anymore because it's the internet, but we are very close to Pratt. I mean, that doesn't really solve much because there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people who live 2 blocks away. So, yeah, we're not far from there at all, actually. That's close to where we were. I was about to tell you my cross streets, but I'm not going to do that. Well, listen, hey, both of those streets I recognize. I know what those streets are. I'm not going to tell you where we are compared to those. So, folks, today's Freaky Friday. What this means is, this is one of my favorite times, we make up the meditation. This is a meditation I've never guided before, and it's based on your needs, interests, opportunities, curiosities, difficulties, any of those things, all of those things. So what I'm going to ask is, what's going on in your life that you would like some support around? Any challenges, difficulties? Oh, P.S., Johnny, if you're still here, I don't know if you're still here, but beep up is on the last stream, the most recent stream, I think Wednesdays, I answered your question about obsessive thoughts, and I answered it at length because I have a better answer, and the guided meditation that we did on Wednesday was actually addressing what does one do with this obsessive thoughts. So I wanted to share that with you. I forgot to mention that. So if that's of interest, because I thought about my answer later. I was like, that was not a complete answer, and I had a much better solution to that. So hopefully that's of interest. Salad of Despair says, a bunch of orchestra kids lived in our building and would start warming up with their wood instruments at 8 a.m. on Saturday mornings. That's actually kind of very sweet. Hopefully that was sweet for you. There's a guy who plays saxophone behind our building sometimes, and he's really good. And he's like warming up, and it just seems like I always want to find him. I think one time I like peeked my head out the window to like listen to him, and he saw me and he stopped. But I really like, it's really lovely. That's one of the nice things about New York. These like crazy talented people just sort of like hanging about. There's actually above us is a classical guitarist who's just incredible. He's like this really unbelievably beautiful, and he'll just sit there and noodle. He's not even like playing a thing. He's just like just playing all day. And the guy himself, though, I think is really unfriendly. That's what I think it's the same guy. I don't remember. Matt says, I'm not sure why, but your beard makes me feel way more ease getting mindful guidance from you. Well, hey, listen, I was actually talking about this recently. So today we're going to be talking about my most recent therapeutic psychedelic journey. So my most recent journey that was guided by a person who just professionally guides people through psychedelic therapy. And I was talking about the beard and thinking, like, you say everything under the sun during, it's like a huge long session. It's hours and hours. And at some point I was like, I don't know. I feel like maybe I want to shave my beard off, but I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't shave my beard off, whatever. So I was talking about that, and there was internally different opinions going by here. So hopefully hopefully you'll still stick around even if I get rid of this sucker. I'll have this like very funny short face, and we'll go from there. Let's see. There was a guy with a Spanish guitar in our building, and it was so beautiful when he played. I know, it's so lovely. Big beard equals wisdom factor 9,000. Yeah, exactly. Without it, no one will take me seriously. So therefore I must. That's really the only thing that has people taking me seriously. So it's a big key. So, okay, back to the theme, which is that today's Freaky Friday. So tell me in the chat, I need to know from you folks, what is going on in life. Now it's a little embarrassing or a little, whatever, but what details are coming up? Procrastination has been my biggest issue lately. Great. If someone wouldn't mind, we did this in the last, on Johnny's stream actually, but if someone wouldn't mind, our second YouTube channel, I'll give you the link to that. Do a quick search on there. I always have you guys do this because it takes so long for me to figure this stuff out. I'm sort of like a troglodyte. But the last link of those three is our second YouTube channel. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's our first YouTube channel. And there should be a video on there about procrastination. So if you don't mind sharing that link in the chat, that'd be really great. Matt Inc. says, psilocybin therapy changed my life 100%. That's so great to hear. I'm happy to hear that worked for you. So glad to hear it started to be legalized. Yes, as of this morning, actually, or maybe it's yesterday, New Jersey, it's not legal yet, but the bill to legalize, decriminalize marijuana is including psilocybin. So we'll see if that lasts. It was not in the we'll see what happens. And my hope is actually they legalize it for therapeutic use first, because the therapeutic use of psilocybin is like incredibly important. It's like there's so much evidence to that working so well. So Salad of Despair. Sometimes I go scream into my pillow when people do really stupid stuff. That actually might be a good strategy, honestly. Just do stupid stuff at work, and I have to go clean up after them. Well, listen, that sounds like intense frustration. Oh, thank you, Jean. Just shared the link on procrastination. Roy says, greetings from Kingston, Ontario. Lovely, lovely. Welcome, everyone. If anyone has not said hello, please let us know who you are, where you are in the chat. We have a lovely set of house guests here, so please make folks feel welcome. If anyone's confused, give them our typical confusion medicine, which is, I don't know what that is. Maybe it's a link to some sort of, Nigerian prince erection pills or something. I don't know what we do to help people stay unconfused here. We haven't figured it out yet. We're still confused on that. But to feel welcome, we know how to do that. That one we got on lock. So, okay, so far people are listing procrastination, and it sounds like Salad of Despair, which is an appropriate name, sounds like intense emotion is one of the things that's arising for you. Intense emotion. And does it feel like you don't know how to process that, or does it feel like actually that's fine, that's not a big deal for you? Tyler Boston, Nigerian pill. Exactly. Send the links. Thanks. Exactly. Just just go online and search, I don't know, Go in your spam box and open all of the mails and click all the buttons. That's my suggestion. And then those are all our links, and you can then get all the support you need. Anything else? What else is coming up for folks in the meditation? I also want to warn people here. The plan is usually, this is what we do. We have a whole bunch of new people, so we might switch this, but the plan is usually that we do a 25-minute meditation. Oh my God, 25-minute meditation, impossible. Let me tell you right now, it is not impossible. Not only is it not impossible, you will be a totally different person on the other side of that. 100% different, probably not, but it will probably have some effect for sure. Let's see. Self-discipline is hard when all I want to do is laze around all day. This is a great topic, and actually I got into that topic on Wednesday. The procrastination side actually links with that, because what that is two different selves, two different sub-minds, or two different parts of us pushing and pulling in different directions. So much of our difficulty in life is different parts pushing and pulling against each other. Salad of Despair says, I can process it, usually just through screaming for a minute or two. Honestly, listen, as long as you're not injuring your throat, that's actually a relatively good outlet, right? Versus, I don't know, smoking crack or punching someone. Hey, doggy, get out of there. Help. Come on. Doggy's going where she should not be. Tyler Boston says, sorry, I'm usually a jokester, but I do have an honest question. Well, listen, hit me with that honest question. I'd love to hear that. And also I'm going to put up the fence because the dog's in the bedroom, and that means socks will be strewn about and chewed to pieces. So give me 30 seconds here. You can talk amongst yourselves. Get up. Come on. Good girl. Oh, you want to play? You want to play? You're going to do play meditation, huh? So what she does is I come pick her up for the stream, or to be in the stream, and then she just tangles every single cord. Do you folks like my little lady? She's the head executive of our entire operation. Yeah, it's not the most efficient thing is to have a puppy be the head executive, because we need stuff done, and she's just chewing on a peanut butter bone, but it's adorable. It makes for really cute pictures, but other than that, it's not a really efficient way to run an organization. But listen, efficiency isn't the only thing out there. Okay, she'll be back. She's our spirit animal here. Okay, pro tip here, or big question. Anyone familiar with Avatar and the Airbender? Or what's the name of that movie? Totoro. I really think that the people who are making those movies just had a dog, and we're like, what if this dog were 10 feet tall? Or what if this pet, because she has such huge Appa vibes. She's so just like that. It's so funny. Anyway, I'm fully convinced of that at this stage. Okay, going back, real questions. You got a real question here, Salad of Despair. I like that tapestry in the back. Well, thank you so much. That's a carpet we got here at a place in Manhattan. Beep up. Allow me a moment to word it. Okay, great. Take your time. She is very cute. She's very adorable. She's my favorite. She's the sweetest. Let's see. Salad, yes to both. I forget what the question was. Yes to both. Okay. Well, I'm with you on yes to both. Okay. Sila is really digging in here. Hopefully she chills out a little bit during the guided meditation. Okay. So, it all starts when the Fire Nation attacks. Yeah, exactly. It all starts when the Fire Nation attacks. I know, and Salad, you're talking about your challenges at work. I know that feel. So yeah, it all starts in the goddamn Fire Nation. Okay, Tyler Boston says, I guess I would ask, has meditation helped with procrastination, or could it be a way to further delay responsibility? Yes to both. Yes to both. So my solution here that I'm going to generally recommend to most things is getting a wide enough perspective that we can get balance. Because if we don't know what's happening, if we don't know what's going on in our lives, or we don't know what we care about, or we don't have a sense of our direction, or, our values, it's, like you can't really have balance. There's no way to feel balanced or be balanced or this kind of thing. But if we get a little bit of perspective, we get a sense of what's important to us, we kind of get the pieces in place, now we can start seeing, wait a minute, there's a really heavy emphasis over here, or there's something I'm like just not paying attention to over here that is pretty significant. Often maybe some trauma or some, psychological material or this kind of thing, or maybe my mind is just so active I can't stop worrying and this kind of thing. So, okay, maybe there's something over here. But we need a wide enough perspective to then get balance. So anything can be used poorly. This is a very Buddhist concept that you can, our dog is called Sila. Thank you so much. Very few people get that. And I'm glad that when people do, we thought a lot more people would be like, oh my goodness, that's such a interesting whatever. So whatever, though. Thoughts about the future. So getting balance. Anything can be used poorly, anything can be used skillfully. So a very Buddhist concept is that nothing is inherently good or evil. It is just used skillfully or unskillfully. It is experienced as pleasant or unpleasant. So if we think of something very like dramatic and, what was I going to say, a little bit over the top, right? You think of like, oh no, like someone's fallen into a river. Do I save them or not? Well, obviously the good answer is to save them. Well, it is good in terms of them having a nice full life, and maybe for us not feeling bad about letting someone pass away, but it will impact, population. It'll impact, maybe that person uses a lot of fossil fuels or whatever. So the idea that it is perfectly good is just not true. It will have good effects. It'll have effects we imagine are good, effects we imagine are negative, but ultimately most of its effects will be neutral. So it's helpful to look at all of our experiences as having both of those things. So could meditation be used poorly? Absolutely. I've seen people, not do things in their lives that are very important using meditation. Does drinking from a beaker make you wiser? It makes me wiser about the precise amount of water I'm drinking. Although I never really look. It's just the size. I just want a glass container that fits my giant paw. So that's what it is. I like to drink a lot of water, and I do so if I have a nice big old container. Okay. So this will be our last question. So any other things that we want to address in the meditation, let me know. I think we'll do either 2 meditations or we'll do a shorter meditation today. I'm going to start experimenting with different lengths of meditation. So since there's a bunch of new folks, I think we're going to do a little bit shorter. Here's a pro tip. Folks who are used to doing longer meditations, who are more advanced, start now. As I'm speaking here, start your meditation now. It'll be harder because there'll be information, but do your shamatha or concentration practice now as we begin, and let the process roll here. Tyler Bosses says, I am a newer viewer and I briefly checked out your bio, but I'm not sure. It's stated, do you follow a specific religion? Answer, no. Although I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Or is it, or if it's not too much to ask a brief description of the channel. That's a good idea because I actually don't include that very clearly that often. Like, well, exactly what are we doing here? Beakers help you measure fluid intake precisely. By the way, is morality a good translation for Sila? Yeah, morality, but we think of morality as like, I'm going to be good and right and wrong and don't do this. And morality is any movement towards goodness of any kind. Goodness is pretty abstract. It's like, so if I sit up straight, that's morality. If I think that sitting up straight will be better in some way. If I try to eat healthy, that's morality. Okay. Sila is making a noise. Okay. Sila, leave it. Okay, next we have, I do apologize if interrupting. Genuinely curious. Okay, so this will be our last thing, and then we'll jump into the meditation. Description of the channel. So my goal is to bring the deep side of meditation to as many people as want it as possible. I have a critique of much meditation that it's extremely light, and it would maybe affect a little teeny tiny piece of our life if we got into it. So my experience was getting into meditation and just sort of going nowhere and wanting it to go somewhere and wanting it to affect my life, and it being like, yeah, it's cool and I can, I feel a little more relaxed, but not being really deeply transformational. So I became very interested in the transformational nature of mindfulness, how it could be woven into every aspect of my life, and how I could come and say, hey, I want to work on procrastination, my relationship with my wife, I want to, and improve my, willingness to grow my business or something like that. All really practical things. And maybe I say also that classical awakening thing I've heard about, is that BS or is that a real thing? Can I, these kind of questions. And so those are the people that I have worked with for many years, and that's the way that I teach, is helping people answer those kind of questions rather than, can you reduce my stress a little bit? I just find that personally, as a teacher, very boring, because it's the same thing over and over again. It's just, okay, here's the tools to relax, it's good to relax, and I also want to have a big old impact on people's lives if possible, if ever possible. Nick, thank you so much for gifting that subscription to Rory. Thank you so much. Lovely for your support. Thank you for that. I always forget to ask people to subscribe and support and all those things. So thank you so much for that. It's very kind of you. I need to improve my drive for my business. Great. Yeah, and we can do that. That's 100% something that's in the range of what's possible in meditation. So with that, folks, let's do a little bit of meditation. So folks, here's what I'm going to recommend. I'm going to recommend that you meditate in stillness. Now, this might seem very strange, but it's pretty important, especially if you want to have a big effect. So I'm going to have you find a position that you can sit in, that you don't have to move at all, not one little bit, for the entire time. I think we're going to do like 15-ish minutes, 15, 20. And beep up, is the way we do that is arranging the body well. So if we're sitting in a chair, we can sit so that we don't have to use muscles to hold ourselves up. Be careful if the back is rounded, like this way. I would suggest typically sitting at the edge of a cushion or at the edge of a chair. If this is the chair, you sit like this so the hips rock down just slightly. Let the back round so that it's just balanced. You're not actually holding yourself up. It's actually just a sort of balance from the crown of the head through the tailbone. You're just trying to find a balance there. There are two rules when you can move, right? One, and this is very permissive actually, one is you want to, right? So this makes my rule pretty, the rule is don't move at all. But if you need to, let's say if there's something so distracting that you can't keep practicing, it's just so distracting, then go ahead and move, but wait maybe 30 seconds, maybe wait 4 or 5 or 10 breath cycles, and then go ahead and scratch the itch, that kind of thing. And then if you are, those are reasons to move, but do so mindfully. Don't move unmindfully, move slowly. And then the other reason to move is if overwhelm is even starting to come up. So typically overwhelm can arise, and typically it goes level 1, level 2, level 3, and then level 11. So once you start seeing overwhelm arising, if it's too much, just go ahead and make a small adjustment, see what happens. Move the body a little. Eventually, if you want to, just feel free to open the eyes, rest them on a single point, and if it's too overwhelming, stop. It's important that we don't let overwhelm sort of run the show. So find that nice comfortable position, and in a moment we'll begin. Let me just see these last comments here. Going to join, great, glad you're joining. High blood pressure, great reason to meditate. Excellent. Okay, great. So find that nice comfortable position. And something I want to remind people is that distraction is natural. It doesn't mean you're failing, doesn't mean the meditation isn't working. Distraction is going to happen. I promise you this. So find that nice comfortable position and make a little commitment now. If you want to stick around for the whole thing, just stick around. Even if you need to stop practicing, just stay and we'll talk about any challenges, and usually a couple words and that challenge is gone after that. Okay, so finding that nice comfortable position. When you're ready, we'll begin. I realize the timer I have is a 25-minute timer, so I'm going to put it on in case someone joins. They know we're in the middle of meditation, but it's probably not going to be that length. And we'll begin. Taking a moment to listen to the sound of the bell. Beginning by taking a few comfortable deep breaths, just feeling the body rise and fall. Allowing the eyelids to fall if we'd like to practice with the eyes closed, or if we feel more comfortable, we can practice with the eyes open, resting on a single point. And simply feeling the body for a moment. The mind will likely be active, bouncing around here and there, and that's fine. We're simply allowing that, and as much as is available, gently, easily, just feeling the sensations of the body. At this moment, precisely what does a human body feel like? Each time we come to a meditation, the mind is moving at a certain speed. So since we were just chatting, the mind is probably moving at that speed, bouncing from distraction to distraction at about that rate. So that's fine. Every once in a while, we're simply bringing it back to the sensations of the body. As much as we can without being judgmental. Distraction is natural. And one way to slow down the speed of the mind is to allow the mind to hold more material, not zoomed in to any particular point, but getting a larger collection of sense data. So what is the overall body experience now? It uses a different part of the mind to get a general sense of the entire body. This part of the mind is often a bit softer. And the mind is very good at telling us to ignore things and be distracted. Very talented that way. So we're going to ignore the part of our mind that says that we've felt these sensations before. They're not really that interesting, because we've actually never felt these sensations before, at least not in this moment. and physically relaxing the body. It's possible to relax the body more deeply than we can even feel. So even if it feels like the body's already relaxed, relaxing down to the level of the bones themselves, as though we could let go of the muscles, let them fall away from the body. And if some sensation draws a lot of our attention, makes the mind zoom in, a discomfort or an itch or something like this, we just let that be there, but also notice all of the other sensations around it. All of the body's sensations, getting a general capture, like a freeze frame. What are all of the body sensations at this moment? And this moment. And slowly, the system begins to settle down. We're playing a very simple game, answering, what do the sensations of the body feel like in this moment? Getting the clearest answer we can, letting go and starting again. And it may be helpful to use a mental label each time we detect the overall sense of the body and the mind. We can simply say the word feel. Feel. As though we're tagging the experience with this word. Feel. Feel. And of course, at times the mind becomes distracted. This is nature. This is bound to happen. It's not a problem. Simply coming back and asking the question again. What's the general sense of body sensation at this moment? If we'd like, using the mental label feel. Soaking in, letting go, and starting the process over. learning to play this very simple game. And we gain points by answering the question correctly. What do the sensations of the body feel like in this moment? Some will be pleasant. Some will be unpleasant. Some will be neutral. All are simply nature. Now we're going to make a slight shift. So far we've been observing the sensations of the body and ignoring other sensations. And now we're going to open our awareness up to include everything that we can experience in this moment. We're not trying to grab every little bit. We're just doing a kind of freeze frame. What are all of the sensations? What's an overall sense of any seeing, hearing, or feeling? And at first, when we make this switch, it may seem like there's a lot of efforting, as though we have to go out there and try to capture every little bit, but that's not necessary. This body and mind is very receptive. What is the overall experience of this particular moment? Body sensations, sounds, the darkness of closed eyes, or if we're practicing with the eyes open, visual material. Part of our mind is good at zooming in, looking at detail, and part of the mind is good at effectively zooming out, getting a general capture. As though the mind were more open, more like a big cloud. If we'd like to use a mental label, we can call this overall experience awareness. Or I like to use the word this. Each time we have a sense of our overall experience in the mind, we can simply say, this. Soak in, let go, and start again. And at this stage, there is no such thing as a distraction. We've simply noticed something else that belongs to this particular moment. But it's very important to remember that the definition of this changes every time. The mind likes to tell us we've seen this or detected this before, but we certainly have not. Not these sensations in this configuration in this precise moment. That is the definition of this. Whatever seems like a distraction, including it, but also including the part of us that doesn't like it or is pushing it away. Most distractions come with this bit of extra resistance or disliking, as though some part of us were pushing that sensation away. Everything else is part of awareness, but not these sensations, or not this sound, or not this thought. And yes, we're including thought, the mind chattering away, the mind making images, memory, planning, fantasy. This is all part of our current sensory experience. Any emotions in the body. Any part of us that's liking this or disliking this. Thinking this is going wonderfully or this is going terribly. So at this stage we cannot make a mistake. The only two pieces in this game are this, whose definition changes each moment, and unconsciousness, when we simply drift away and are gone. Not a problem, simply part of nature. It's the nature of the mind to be unconscious at moments. So for a moment, feeling the relief. We can't make a mistake. We don't need to be anyone. Even our sense of self-judgment or frustration, it's all allowed. It's all part of this. It's very rare that we're not being asked to do something or be someone. We don't even need to meditate well. We can just get distracted and come back, and that's fine. And here's the most important part of this meditation. Not letting go of this practice. So watch what happens when I say the following words. The meditation will end when the bell goes silent. And hearing those words, notice if the whole system lights up. starts pulling towards some imagined future moment. Just include that as our definition of this. Impulses to move the body or the mind. Planning. So allow a tiny bit of light to enter the eyes. And staying in stillness. Eventually allowing the eyes to rest on a single point as the eyes fully open. Taking in the visual experience as part of this. And letting this particular moment right here, as we sit with our eyes open, as we do much of our day, letting this be the great teacher. This moment has everything it needs to show us how to bring this practice into every aspect of our life. Okay, so this is the fun part. This is my favorite part of the whole thing. Okay, beep up, beep up. Meditation is 2 parts. First of all, move any part of the body you need to relax, shake it off, whatever you got to do. Meditation is made of 2 things. I'm being very broad, overly specific, or overly general here. But let's say a meditation is 2 things. One is doing the meditation, and the other one is soaking up the material that we found in the meditation. So here's what I'm going to recommend. Use your digital technology, and either 2 options. 1, type what happened in your meditation, no matter what it was. Type it in the chat. Right? Was distracted, sleepy, this thing happened at some point, something cool happened, I got whatever it was, I had a memory, something. But talk about your present moment experience, what occurred from like a kind of almost scientific point of view. And then the other option is to jump on Zoom and we'll chit-chat like kitty cats. And you can just tell me what happened in your practice and I can answer any questions. So here is the Zoom. I'll open that. You can either come on with voice or video, whatever you prefer. And I'm very curious, because a lot of new people here. I'm very curious what that experience was like and challenges specifically that arose. Now, I want to tell you something about challenges. There are so few challenges that people actually experience. There's like 10 standard challenges, and they're so simple to solve. So if you had a challenge in that meditation, let me assure you that it was entirely normal, and there's probably like one answer that'll make it very easy and not show up again, or you just work through it over a few meditations. So I am opening this meeting up. If you want to join in, let me know. I'm going to full screen this next door in case anyone wants to be visible. Let's see here, but you don't have to. But voices make things easier. It makes it a little easier to ask more detailed questions. What was that experience like? What happened and what you were like? What are you like now? Even though my dog did bark, which she usually doesn't, she was pretty good. You should have heard her like the last couple meditations. It was intense. It's intense, let me tell you. Okay, and I'll talk about how that relates to procrastination, because it does relate to procrastination, but we want to get the foundational skills in place. And I'll talk about how it relates if anyone's curious. I'm sure some people are. Tyler says, I crawled out from my bed to say thanks. That was great. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad you did a little crawling there, little hands and knees transaction. That was during my psychedelic journey. There's a point at which I told the guy, we were going from one substance to another, one medicine to another, adding another medicine. And I was like, I think I'm going to be here for a while, aren't I? I was like, I think I should go to the bathroom real quick. And she's like, you should probably crawl. I'm like, really? I was like, okay. And then I start crawling. I'm like, whoa, so I crawled out of bed too. So we'll talk about that too. I feel less aggro. Cool. Yeah, and that's part of the nice effect. Not only is it an emotional thing, but also the system wants to recalibrate, and there's a part of us that can be very, very stable, and the system loves that. And if we start to tune into that, it's very useful in our practice. I felt light and open and a little overwhelmed. Well, listen, first of all, good on you for noticing a little bit of overwhelm. That was actually great, because we want to know when to stop, because meditation, especially if we have any background of trauma or developmental trauma, we need to, what was I going to say? My dog just bit me. We need to be very careful with how hard we push in our meditation. Tyler said, I appreciated you acknowledgement of distraction. Okay, so this is a big deal. People often don't know that you can meditate in a way where there is no such thing as distraction, because people really have a hard time with the distraction. So you can either just ignore the distraction, be like, yeah, I'm just not going to pay attention, and I'm going to, just ignore it and stay over here. Or you can open up to include the distraction, and then there's no problem whatsoever. They're different. Each one is a different flavor. Let's see. Rory says, thanks, Nick, for the subscription. My doggy found a squeaky toy. That was lovely. Great. Glad to hear it. Okay. So any folks who have been here longer, if you want to give us a report on what that was like, what happened, what you're like now, that would be great. And then as those roll in, I'll kind of prepare to talk about my psychedelic experience, which was just last Saturday, which is crazy. I want to talk first about how slow time is going. Oh, I also want to talk, because we have our tech crew here. So I'm trying to get really good at saying, I'm about to say something that I want people to be able to find later. So here is, I'm about to say something. And the thing I'm about to say is about time distortion and what's happening now with COVID and everything related to time distortion. Time is so weirdly distorted that it's hard to even overestimate. The only way that we can notice how distorted time is if we compare it to our usual experience of time and some big event. It's like you can't, if you're floating in the middle of space and there's no other object, there's no way to tell which way you're going, and the same thing is sort of true with time. Just consider this. It's been 6 days, 6 regular human ordinary days since Joe Biden was clinched the presidency, the election. 6 days. Does it feel like 6 days to you? Does it feel like it's been just a little under a week? Or does it feel like it's been, 6, 10 weeks, maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months? I forget exactly when. Time has slowed down so much during COVID. It's insane. My experience is it feels like a long, long, long time. I didn't know how to identify that. I know I didn't notice it either, but it's so recent. I mean, God, it's so recent, but it feels like so much has happened, and there's such an advantage to that, because we can really, we can either be in lots and lots of despair all the time, or we can actually grow in a way, like in a more intense way. Often when a tragedy happens or something really intense happens, time slows down, and we have an opportunity at that moment to grow and to connect in that way. Salad says, it feels like it's always been Wednesday, even when it's weekdays. I know it's such a weird thing. Feels like 84 years. I know, exactly. Okay, so Denny, a longtime practitioner here, says, getting started with concentration practice when you were still talking was challenging. Good. So Denny's a longtime practitioner. Good. I want at times for people who are wanting to step up their game, meditation to be challenging, but I also want to be reflecting that I'm sorry to hear that was challenging, but I'm glad I had the opportunity to do it. So this is one of the things that people don't understand, is they think everything has to be just in order. It's supposed to be a certain way. But a lot of what I do when I'm on the stream and when I'm talking to people is I'm trying to meditate while we're doing it. It takes a little bit of my sort of functionality away, but it makes the moment so much richer. And because my job is to talk about this material, it makes it so much more possible in that way. Salad says, last week was the longest year of my life. That's a good one. So, and also P.S., my psychedelic journey, I found out about the I found out about the about Joe Biden 5 minutes before they gave me the first medicine, and I was like, and I was just like so excited, so happy. I was just like, very, obviously you can tell my politics, but listen, I'm happy to, everyone's welcome, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm not where I'm at. So Gene says, sitting completely still is getting a lot easier for me. Excellent. I had to adjust once on purpose, but otherwise didn't move a flinch. That's lovely. And again, that's great news. And if someone has trauma or needs to move. I really insist it's important. Also, during the WENS meditation, I noticed I had a tightness in my upper chest that was gone today. Lovely. Nice to hear. Tyler says, is that an open Zoom link? Yes, it is. I'm new, but I do have a few questions. Great. Okay, so I'm going to pop in this Zoom link. Once more, you can do !Z if you ever want to get the link. And then I'm going to answer these questions real quick. I echo Denny. It wasn't easy to concentrate while you were talking, but I'm glad I tried. Yeah, that's when you start getting into advanced stuff. I mean, when you go on retreat, it's like the mind is like so anxious in so many different things at the beginning, and it's just pulled in a million directions. So to be able to ignore data or words, especially in a language you understand, it's tough. What a way to start a journey. Yeah, it was quite lovely. Okay, so I'm going to look down here. Okay, no one's popped in on Zoom, and my report from the psychedelic journey is going to be longer than short. So I want to take this toy away from the dog, but it's her favorite toy. Honestly, never use Zoom. Let me make sure my mic is okay. Oh, it's so funny. I actually realized I think I might switch that over to Discord, because so many people know Discord so well. I miss in-person meditation retreats. I know. I really want to. There's some talk about the possibility of actually doing in-person meditation retreats. Oh, actually, you know what? Here you go. If people would prefer to do Discord, I'm happy with that too. How do we do that though? Because I usually use the Zoom. Do you know why I use the Zoom? Because I like the if people do want to come on video, then we do video. Okay, someone's popped in here in Zoom. Okay, welcome. Hello. You may be muted. Let's see here. Hey Tyler, it looks like your mic is not registering. So let's see here. If I jump into Discord and I go to public voice chat, voice waiting room, reports and questions. Okay, I'll be in reports and questions if folks want to. Do you request? Oh no, you pop into the waiting room. So if you go into the waiting room, I can bring people in one by one. If you want to do Discord, if you want to do Zoom, pop over on Zoom, then we're good. I think Tyler just jumped back over to Discord because Zoom is being a little funky son of a gun. You can do video on Discord. Very cool. Well, I know. I thought you were saying you can do video on Discord. I noticed that too. I think I'm just like a, what are they called? Simpleton. Yeah, don't worry about it. Just hit Discord if you want to ask a question. Jump into the voice waiting room, and I will move you over one by one. Okay, folks. So in a minute, once we get this, so I'm gonna shut down Zoom today. We're just gonna call it on Zoom, and we're just gonna do Discord if people want to chit chat like kitty cats and meeting, and we'll go from there. Okay, cool. Great. So if you pop into the voice waiting room, that's good times, and then we'll go from there. So folks, I'm going to give them my full report on the psychedelic journey. It was 9 hours long, and so there's a lot of material here. So let me tell my crew here, my tech crew. Okay, I'm going to begin. So what this means actually is that whoever is jumping in on Discord, we're going to pause for a minute. So I'm just going to give this I'll give my full report, ask any questions you want. If folks want to ask questions on Discord about the journey, you can too. I can do both together. So general sense. First, I want to say, this is my disclaimer I give every time. I have not used recreational substances in 16 and a half years. In February it'll be 17 years. So what that means is I was basically a drug addict, alcoholic, and stopped a long time ago and haven't used any self-prescribed minor mood-altering substances aside from caffeine in that entire time. So I do not recommend people doing this stuff recreationally for a couple of reasons. One is that I just don't think it's ethically responsible to tell people to use a substance, especially one that's not legal, for safety purposes and legality purposes. The other part is having it be guided or having it be very structured is so dramatically completely different than recreational use, which I know from personal experience. So I highly recommend that people either find a guide or something of that kind if you are interested in this. You don't have to be interested in this. There's lots of ways to grow and change and that kind of thing. The guide that I work with, I can't share that information for obvious reasons, but it's someone that I like very much, someone that I trust very much, and someone who's been doing this for years. This is the center of what they do. So hopefully this is not too squeaky and annoying, but listen, this is life. Okay, you got to find a different toy. Leave it. Good girl. So the arc of my journey. So this was a bigger, sort of more intense journey than I've had kind of ever, meaning substance-wise and length. So maybe I had one that was longer, but it was increased doses. The person felt my body size and everything warranted a larger dose of kind of each of these different substances. The movement of the medicines were given to me as I was they sort of start with a kind of little bit of a ritual the day before. I'm doing a lot of writing on what my intention is the day of. I get there and we settle in and sort of talk about what the system is doing, what my mind is doing, etc. And then I basically settle in and we do a little ritual kind of thing together. I'm not a big I'm a big believer in reason, but rituals can be helpful to guide ourselves. And the next thing is that then you take the medicine. Well, first you hear that Joe Biden won the nomination, and everyone's honking outside and this kind of thing. And then you lay down. So they have a whole thing set up so you have a nice place to lay down, a weighted blanket, all this nice stuff. Cover your eyes, and then you just sit there. And if you want to talk, you can. If you don't want to talk, you don't have to. I did talk. So the first medicine they gave was MDMA. This is very helpful to reduce any kind of fear or resistance that's happening. So there's a few hours on the MDMA. The next medicine they gave was psilocybin, sometimes known as magic mushrooms, and that tends to do a few things. One is get you very clearly aware of the body. It also does something weird, which is force you to identify with a lot of your emotions and things, force you to sort of, it's not like something that's happening. Oh, we have a lovely follower here. Thank you here. Master Gamer, 1967. It forces you to sort of be your experience, which is not always pleasant, right? Sometimes your experience is a lot of sadness, which was what was coming up for me, or challenge or difficulty. It just forces that perspective, it forces you into that perspective for some people. But it also, because it puts you there, but it loosens all the wires up also, it gets you to move to a place where you don't have to be so sucked into that experience. It can actually be very freeing over time. So at first it feels like you are just forced into like your own difficulty or challenge or your whatever's happening inside, and then you get to some critical distance from it. So that's the psilocybin. And then the third medicine that was used was ketamine. Again, these are all very precisely dosed out for me, and etc. The ketamine was intramuscular, meaning it was an injection in my arm. The reason for that was they wanted it to happen quickly and go away quickly so that I could return back to the work and be able to talk about what my experience was. So a lot of the experience is basically like a big, intense therapy session where you're talking. My experience at the beginning was I lay down and I start talking and saying, oh, okay, I noticed there's fear here, there's concern there. Yeah, part of me is afraid. And I was saying, hey, you're welcome, fear, you're welcome to be here, this kind of thing. And really, a lot of what I was doing is just saying whatever's happening, if it's fear or concern or worry or anticipation or wanting it to be a certain way, all of that is okay. It's okay for those things to be here. And I'm sort of talking to myself and talking to the guide and just getting reassurance. I'd say like, hey, can you reassure me that it's going to be okay? And she was like, yeah, it's going to be fine. I was like, okay, cool. And just taking that in. So that was the first whole section. The MDMA section was really, and looking at the different parts of myself. One part that feels very vulnerable, feels like I'm not good enough, feels like difficulties are like the center of the world. Feels like it's interesting. The part that's the most vulnerable feels like it has to manage everything in the world, and it's scared and everything's so messed up. And so seeing that part active and saying, hey, I see you. I see that you're concerned or that you need to manage this. I'm with you, etc. Then there was a big part here, which I think is interesting because this is not something I'm usually so sort of tied into. But in the moment, I felt totally comfortable with, and well, not totally, but somewhat comfortable with. I'm just praying and praying specifically to like God, which I have a very off and on relationship with belief, and I feel like people should be comfortable believing whatever they believe. But I also have this sort of thing of like believing in things is like, that's kind of strange. Like part of me feels like I should be atheistic. In this moment, that just wasn't the case. And I just felt like I had this connection and I had this massive sense of a guide there with me. So I was like, I'm going to take that opportunity. So part of it was praying and saying like, hey, and I'm okay if you would say there is no God and I'm just praying within myself, or there is, or whatever. Like it doesn't matter to me. It matters what works for me. So there's a lot of praying and saying like, please help me accept whatever happens. Like no matter what it is, if I'm scared or it's difficult, like please help me allow that in, whatever it is. And thank you so much for your guidance. Thank you for, helping me feel stable and secure and these kind of things. So that was there's a fair amount of praying. When the psilocybin part kicked in, what happened was, and I'm going to go back and read comments after, but I want to, for now, just kind of get the big bulk of this out. And any questions you have, make sure to write them down or save them for now. Beep up is, so the psilocybin comes in and it's just much more, it's almost like I was on the surface and then something very deep sort of slowly rises up, and the depth of experience becomes very, very broad, and it's sort of like this big waves of kind of like reality coming at you. It's like, whoosh. Like today we did the meditation. It was sort of just looking at this particular moment and allowing whatever's happening. And it almost seems like it's like a flash, like a thin sliver. And it felt more like these were like these big waves that came with all of this sort of content and fears and history and memory. And I'm talking through that, and there was a lot of experience of an old emotion that my body's held for a very long time. So if anyone knows, I've talked about this somatically held emotion that's sort of deeper in my body that is very uncomfortable and it's very intense. It's an old emotion of sadness, and my old headphones are on. So, and I've been working through it and slowly draining that pool for years. 7 or more years I've been actively trying to drain it. So that's a lot of what I work on in these journeys personally. So a lot of that was like coming to the surface and like feeling that, and it was this, I would oscillate between feeling it like it's mine, and be like, oh God, like there's so much sadness, like, oh my God. And then suddenly seeing like, oh, it's just a sensation in the body and it's fine. The pain would go away, but it being painful would go away, but the sensation would still be there. When that switch would happen, the pain, and this seems like so weird, would feel exquisitely pleasurable, incredible, like, oh, what a relief. This is so incredible. And it felt like this like crystalline palace, and my mind was like showing me all these images of like how beautiful it was and like all these beautiful colors, but it was the pain that I was just staying with. In these journeys, often you want to keep an intention and stay with that intention. This journey, I tried to let go of that because I had done that so many times in each of the preceding ones. So I feel bad because people are commenting exactly on things that I'm saying, and I'm missing the context. So we'll go back and you'll help me understand what you're saying in context, because I'm saying a million things. So it was really, that was a lot of the dance, a lot of the experience, and it was lovely. It was very, very intense. It was I think a higher dose of psilocybin than they've ever given me before, and it was fine. It was totally fine. I think I was ready for it. And I'm trying to think I'm sure people will ask questions, and I'll raise the question. Oh, there's another thing that was related to the God question, and that was my relationship to a sense of a father. Now, my father was very chaotic, very sort of dangerous. He was violent. He was a drug addict, and he was around in my life it consistently until I was 8, and then very off and on until I was 11, which is the divorce started at 8 and then ended when I was 11. And then I would talk to him once every few years, if then like every 6 years, and then he passed away like 5 or 6 years ago. He was abusive on like kind of every level. He was like very, he's not a great person, but also sick. He was a very sick person. So a lot of it was about my relationship to a father, and this absence, this hole. I was like, oh my God, there was no one there when I needed someone. And then this sense of in the moment, and again, whatever this means, I don't want to judge my own experience, but that space was filled by what I was experiencing at that point as God. And again, you don't have to believe, and often I feel like it's like politics where people think like, I have to come down on one side of this, and if you're a believer and you're a non-believer, then, and it's just like so silly, because the experience can just be there, and that's just the truth for you at that time. That doesn't mean you have to have a religious war over it, but that was my experience at the time. So listen, I'm and the higher power that I connect with is totally okay with me believing sometimes and not believing other times. Like, it's very confident in its, omnipotence or whatever. So, but there was a sense of like being filled with this, like a father figure, like someone who could hold this, this pain that I was experiencing, and made me actually feel a lot of empathy for my sort of biological father, realizing like he was just in unbelievable pain. Like, anyone who's willing to do something like that is so lost. And like, I found out about a lot of the abuse because in his journals late in his life, after he died, we read that he was just racked with guilt about all the stuff that he had done to me and the other kids. And it was like, helpful to hear that he was just totally racked with guilt. But again, people have to live with the consequences of their actions. So, but there was empathy there, and this sense of like guidance that I could actually have a kind of full, rich experience, without this sort of nagging absence that was there. So there was a lot of that was a part of the presence, and that helped it be more possible to feel this really intense pain. And then the third medicine was administered, which was the ketamine. And ketamine is a dissociative, and what happened, the big difference was, it was sort of like very strange and whatever, but I was laying there in a bed, and I was sort of going through this, and I'd sort of drift away and lose the sort of the sense of my body or something like that now and then, sort of like I was floating with like cosmic, waves kind of floating through me or something like this. But I was there. With the ketamine, body just goes whoosh and gets wiped away. There's no body anymore. Now, this is the part that if people are interested in like it sounding trippy, this is the part that's the most trippy for sure. So, what is my dog doing? Oh, I thought my dog was making a sound. It was me rubbing on the microphone. Okay. So, this is the part that was the most trippy. So, body goes away. And it was so clear to me how much, movies like The Matrix, or like these concepts where like the world is just a set of, the viewer can't tell what's real because it's just, everything is just a hologram, or we live in a hologram, these kind of concepts. It really, really, really made me see how possible that would be, because every piece of my existence was sort of thrown into like a tumbler and was just sort of tumbling around, and there'd be these weird configurations of like one part like some weird internet meme, and then like a sense of my connection with my mother, and then like a little piece of boredom, and then like my wife, and over here, and then like something that was just like this texture that I saw, and they were just all like together tumbling in these weird configurations, and they came in these waves that were one every like what seemed like maybe every 10 seconds or something, but they were just like total universes, and it was just like, and reality would be like this weird thing. I'm like, I've never seen that configuration of reality, and again. And it was so weird. There was this one moment that was very, very intense. And again, the pain is there, and the question of the father, or this question of this lack of this feeling like something's missing, this part of me that feels like I'm not good enough. All these parts are jumbling around. The guide, who's very loving, was there, this kind of thing. And then just a pro tip here, ketamine therapy is legal in many places in the United States. So if, as an entryway, you can just potentially find someone who's just doing ketamine guidance, but just keep in mind that is not, there's people who just do it and they send it to you and they're just like, yeah, go ahead and do it. It's like, it's a bad idea. Do not do it on your own. It's very addictive. I know people who've gotten addicted to ketamine. Not cool, not easy, not a good idea. So it's this tumbler of experiences, etc. And then it was to the point where I was like, oh, my wife Raquel, I was like, am I separate from Raquel? Is she actually exist in the world? And I suddenly was like, wait, is there anything other than this? Has there ever been? Because this is so deep and convincing. I could easily imagine, like I can all of my memories and all of these different pieces, I can see them all. It's as though you had all the programming for, like, to put someone into the matrix, to give them a whole complete life, and you just shook them up in a snow globe. And I'm looking at all of them, and I'm like, wow, like I could have been here forever. I was like, did I take a hallucinogen? Am I in a journey, or is this just how it's always been? And the weirdest thoughts were, does my wife exist, or is she just a thought? Is there any separation between her and I? Is there actually a difference? And then we've had some challenges recently, standard relationship COVID challenges. And I was like, oh, is there any problem in our relationship? Is that even a thing anymore? I don't even know if that's real. So those are some of the very, very weird thoughts. And then as I start to sort of come out of that and put the pieces back together, then I can start to use that kind of jumbly reorganization to start to talk about what's happening with me and talk about these different pieces. The funny thing was, I thought I was talking the entire time. And I was explaining what was happening. And he's like, whatever, and explaining, okay, this thing, that's weird. Oh, look over here. And I thought there would be a recording of me sort of doing all this stuff. Absolutely not. The guide said that I was like barely making any like murmuring sounds. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then afterwards I was like, oh, you know the story I told you? And she's like, no, you didn't tell me that story. And I was like, I didn't tell you about this and this, and like these elaborate stories that I thought I had told her. Very funny. So as I came out of that, it was much more the kind of what it had been before, which is like looking at these different parts, and the part of me that felt like it wasn't good enough. And here's a big thing. The part of me that feels like it's not good enough, which I think a lot of people have, basically like a shame part. It has this, for me, it has this huge sense of obligation. Like, oh, I need to figure it out. Like, I don't know. What do I do? It's this thing of like, what do I do? What do I do? And there's a part of me that's like saying that all the time. Inside of that belief, there is this sense that something needs to happen. It needs to do something, because I think that part came online when there was a massive lack of care. And so it felt like it needed to worry or needed to look, and that was the way it would get care. It's very good for survival purposes, like an animal, a mammal that like worries and then finds food. Like, it's actually very good, but it encodes it in our system, and then our map of the world has that encoded in it, which is pretty problematic. So ketamine wears off. I'm now in sort of like still pretty densely in the psilocybin sort of world, and processing that material, the sense of a need. So throughout the entire journey, there was this mantra that I kept saying, is like, you don't need to do anything. You don't need to do anything. Not meaning like, oh, you don't need to get up and take an action, but it's like, you don't need to understand this. You don't need to have a good experience. You don't need to be free of fear. You don't need to accept fear. You don't need to learn about the part that feels like it's not good enough. You don't need to change that part. You don't need that part to go away. It was just like, you don't need to. You don't need to. And it was just a sense of it. When I would do that, I would just like fall back, and like the thing would take over again, and etc. So the final stage, Victoria, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us here. Great to have you here. I'm Victoria, just so you know, I'm describing my most recent psychedelic therapy, psychedelic therapy for trauma that I did just last week. So I'm getting to the end here. So the last section was what I was describing, the psilocybin kind of coming out, but then that pain in my chest really came to the foreground, and it was like it was at the center, and I was there, and I was like full on like praying. I was like, please, like help me, like release this pain or feel the pain or whatever you want. And I was just like, whatever you want me to do, just like show me how. And I was like crying, and like the guy was very, very sweet. The guide's sort of there, like eyes are closed and laying there, and she's sort of like above me with like a hand on my maybe shoulder and like on my forehead or something, and I'm just like, please help me feel the pain or release the pain, whatever you want. And it was like super intense, and I won't belabor it, but basically that went on for a while, and then something switched. And suddenly it was just like so clear. There was just this, it was like, oh, there's the pain. And I could just feel it in this like really rich way. Like I said before, it's like incredibly pleasurable. It's like, oh my God, like it's so freeing to just feel it, but not have to be it. And this is something that meditation can teach us, is how to feel the pain without being the pain. And then all of a sudden it would switch and I would be the pain again. It was almost as though my system were trying to show me, this one hurts, this one is freeing. This one hurts, this one is freeing. And at first I was like, I got to learn this lesson. I really got to look, because I teach meditation and I learn how to train my mind. I've got to learn how to do this. And I was just like, I'm not going to learn anything. I don't have to learn a damn thing. And it would do it on its own. So my system was learning on its own how to do that. And that was very, very pleasant, lovely, helpful. It kind of fades. It goes away a little bit. I forgot to mention this at one point. Oh yeah, actually it was actually around this time where I was like, okay, I think I'm going to go pee again to the bathroom. Bathroom's right there. It's like 6 feet away. And she's like, you should definitely crawl. I was like, okay. So I was like, because I know I'm probably unbalanced. So I'm crawling and I'm like, whoa, like this is, and it doesn't even, it's almost like it doesn't seem trippy until you try to interact with the world. And then it's like really weird. Like crawl into the bathroom. Like, what's this weird sensation on my hand? I was like, oh, it's cold. It's a cold tile. And then I like go and I'm like sitting there to like, to pee. And it's like, I'm like, what the hell? Like, like trying to get the body to just do a thing it does naturally. I'm like, this is the weirdest thing. I crawl back, I lay back down, and in a way it was like when you're laying down covered up, it's so much simpler. It's like you're in a sensory deprivation tank, and it's like it's not as like weird or hard. You don't have to manage the world. But that was the part that seemed like the trippiest out of everything. And then it sort of faded at some point. I finally was like just going through that process of feeling the pain for like a long time, hour, 2 hours. And then finally I was just like, okay, I guess I'm ready to get up. Actually, this is the actual end, was I was like, I don't want to like reorganize myself into a person. I don't want to drink water right now. Like, I just don't feel like it, knowing that I probably shouldn't. It's about time. And I was like, this is very interesting. Anyone who knows Shinzen or knows this meditation material knows that there's something called auto, where the system will just do things on its own. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to get up and organize myself or drink water. I'll just have somebody else do that. And my body was like, and like got up and like kind of like shook it off and like drank some water. And I was like, oh, thank God I didn't have to do that. It was very weird, but it was great. It was lovely. So with that, folks, I have a big request for you. That's the end of my monologue, but I want to know what you were saying during the chat, and I bet you a lot of it is out of context now. So some people have complained that when I'm doing a monologue, it gets so broken up, so I just ignored chat for a little bit. But I do definitely want to go back here. So let's scroll back. I want to read some of these things. How far back do these suckers go? Okay, Discord wasn't working. Sorry about that, folks. We'll get it fixed. If somebody wants to jump on there now, we can see if it works. Just do ! D, and that's the link. And maybe that will get you in there. I'm on the voice channel now, so hopefully that'll we can fix that, get that working. If you want to chat or ask questions verbally. Let's see here. Tyler says, even my Discord, ... Master Gamer says, I want some shrooms. Well, listen, hey, we'll have lots of wants. I want some water right now. That's what I want. What's up, Master? Salad says. Master joining. I think it's okay. What channel should I join? Okay, so just so folks know, there's 2 voice channels. One is the waiting room. If you pop in there, I can by hand drag you into the chat, the voice chat. Denny says, whoa, I've never heard of adding ketamine at the end. It was a sort of special thing. You're saying that it helped the integration experience? No, it was the opposite. It doesn't help the integration. It helps the sort of getting blasted out into the sort of stratosphere, and then coming back, there's a little opening where you can sort of integrate that sort of very deconstructed experience. And again, that's not the best way to do it. It was just what the guide had in mind for me at that time. Master Gamer says, I noticed I had confronted my thoughts when I had taken some LSD. Yeah, that's something absolutely that will happen, the sense of confrontation, the sense of like different parts of us, different selves pushing and pulling. Absolutely. I'm going to skip over some of the ones I already read. K in a legal setting was a time I felt another reality. Excellent. Great for depression. Yes, ketamine is a known treatment now for people breaking through depression. It's crazy. I had the same experience. Oh, that's interesting, Master Gamer. No. Therapy and sessions with guidance. Yeah, that's the general breakdown here. Victoria joined us. Thank you again, Victoria, for jumping in here. Great to see you as always. Denny says, that was fantastic. Tyler says, falling in love with a person that brings water, though. Yeah, there really is kind of like this like warm love to the guide who's there, and you're like, water, and they like give you water. Oh, P.S. This was a small detail that was I really, really appreciated this. They happened to have like in their fridge a bottle. They're like, oh, there's spring water in the fridge. I was like, cool. And I went and I was like, this is just a glass bottle. I was like, oh, this is literally spring water. And it was so delightful during this thing to just be like, literal spring water. I also had a rock with me. The rock's right over here. I don't know if it's interesting to see, but I brought this rock with me because I just felt like I wanted it. It's this piece of quartz. So it's like, it looks like solid, but it's quite see-through. It's like you can see right through it. It's like transparent. So it's a piece of quartz that I found when Raquel and I were on a journey, or on a trip, like an actual car trip once. And I just love this stone. So I brought it with me. It was under the covers in the bed, and I had it like to my right-hand side, so at any point I could reach out and touch it. And then the guide was on the left-hand side, and I could reach out and grab her hand whenever I wanted. I'm not a big crystal person, although I think they're beautiful. A lot of people are really into them for their sort of spiritual purpose or that kind of thing. I don't know a lot about that. I was always a little suspicious. So that's the general breakdown. Any other questions? Anything else about the journey? I don't see anyone jumping in on Discord, so that's cool. No sweat. Anything else coming up for folks as we find our way into the ether? Any other questions or curiosity? I know someone had a question they wanted to ask. I think Tyler had a question. But yeah, anything else? No pressure, of course. And of course, folks, just so you know, we're back here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We meditate, we talk, we chit-chat like kitty cats, we talk about things that are difficult, and we talk about how we might get through those things. I'll join voice, but I might have a few basic questions. I love basic questions. Basic questions are great. Anyone is too advanced for a basic question is, not that advanced. That's my general take. Mic seems off. I hope it's set. Oh, great, you're in. Okay, so I see you here, Tyler. What I'm going to suggest is turn the audio on the stream off and just use Discord for now. Okay, I'm going to pop you in here. Your mic is muted, and there you go. I think you're unmuted. You hear me?
Hello?
Yes, hello. Is this Tyler?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. So how can I be helpful?
So, first day in your channel. Excuse me if I got basic questions.
No, listen, man, I love it. Hit me.
And also thank you for the meditation. That was great.
Awesome. I'm glad you liked it.
Awesome. Yeah.
Especially as a first timer.
So I look up things on YouTube sometimes, and it's like you get distracted so easy.
Mm-hmm.
And you're one of the first people that I've seen that has like acknowledged the fact that you can get distracted and it's okay.
Totally.
So
it's
cool.
Amazing to me that people don't talk about
that. So I guess basic questions. I'll get those out of the way.
Please.
I think I already asked, do you follow a religion of any type, or?
That's a great question. Okay, so here's my general breakdown. I don't follow any particular religion, although I have a pretty solid belief system. So I'm not Christian, but I got sober in a 12-step program. I won't say which one, but there's plenty of them out there. In that program was built out of Christianity, but they took the sort of Christian part out for the most part, and you can just come up with whatever you want. But the principles are the concepts, a lot of them are derived from Protestantism. So some people will get very religious with it. I don't. My wife she's an atheist, straight atheist. I tend to be a sort of like weird agnostic, where sometimes I believe and sometimes I don't, in a sense of a God that's outside of me. And then there's points when I feel very merged with everything, and there's no way to pray to something because the experience is that I'm part of everything in that way. So it's in a way a little bit like a Buddhist relationship to God, where God can't exist because there's no outside. It's all one sort of set of experiences. So it's hard to have something you would pray to. Just one more thing. Sorry.
I don't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
No, just one more thing is that I am not a strict Buddhist, but I really like a lot of the Buddhist meditation technology, and I like a lot of the Buddhist theory and the way they construct the world. So I use a lot of it, but I wouldn't be a strict Buddhist because there's a lot of pieces that I'm not so enamored with in that way. So that's basically my overall system, along with a fair amount of, skepticism and that kind of thing.
Because that's kind of where I say I've never been super religious. I've never, like, I don't know, like, anything is a possibility the way I see it.
Yeah.
But the, meditation, everything, relaxing, getting your mind in the right place, it definitely helps you do better throughout your day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I appreciate all that. I appreciate what you can do for you. I appreciate the time taken for yourself, everything like that. But it doesn't have to relate to a higher power. But a lot of people put it towards that.
And it
so
can.
That's not the way you're looking at it.
Well, here's the thing.
Personally.
I think that we have, are you familiar with this guy? Has a TV show named Bill Maher. You know this guy?
I don't know.
Nah, whatever.
No.
So good. What I'll say is good. So there was this thing that sort of happened where there's this big reaction of people who are evangelical and people who are like really into belief, and it became sort of very popular at a certain point to be like, atheism's the way to go. I don't know if you remember, Reddit used to have atheism as one of its top things. It would be one of its big communities. And they were like, we're basically like, they were very like holier than thou, which is very funny. But the belief was so strong. No, this is the truth. There's no, and I'm a big person on like not taking any position really strongly. So as a position, I try to sort of be like, oh, it could be this or it could be that. I'm not going to argue in one way or the other. Research is starting to show that people who have a sense of faith or a sense of purpose that might be beyond themselves tend to be physically healthier. They tend to live longer, these kind of things. And people are going to make rituals out of things, guaranteed. They're going to make, they're going to see patterns where patterns aren't really there. And so the question I have often is, where do we do that? Do we create a pattern by creating a little ritual for ourselves to feel relaxed or chill or connected or these kind of things? Or do we or do we create a ritual by
even as an atheist, I look towards like, science for an answer or something.
Exactly.
You want something that you can explain it with.
Exactly.
And it makes you feel better.
Yeah.
And if you feel better, I think you're less stressed and you live better.
Yeah. So my position on the whole God thing is like, if it works for you, awesome. And I really don't like when people are like, that's just stupid by its nature. It's like, well, listen, if it works for people, what the problem I have is when people say, well, because I believe I'm better than you or whatever, it's the same thing as because I don't believe I'm better than so-and-so. So yeah, that's my general take.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to like make you explain the basics of your channel. I'm sure you've done it 100 times.
No, I don't think I've answered this question maybe once.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. No, it's just the first time I showed up, so I was kind of wondering.
Anything else?
Probably like one more question. When did you start like meditation, or did you get into it because you were dealing with something, or did you just do it as like you wanted to add?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started meditating when I was around 13, and I grew up on this little hippie farm. A lot of people who've been here know this little story, but grew up on a little hippie farm, and I needed something to. I just wanted more than what I was getting. I was very dissatisfied with life. Something was wrong. Something felt like society didn't get it or whatever. And so it became something that was just at first interesting. I was like, oh, what's this weird thing? And then it became very functional in my life, where it really brought a lot of stability for me. And it was a slow process
looking for an answer, or just
I guess looking for an answer, in a way, it's like a way to experience the world, to understand what this world was about. That was a lot of what it was.
I'm sorry if I'm not the best spoken right now. I will be honest with you. I am drinking.
Oh, well, listen, it's okay. You're doing fine. You're doing fine. Yeah. So that's when I started.
But yeah. Okay, so you were just kind of figuring it out.
Yeah, figuring out life, trying to figure out a path.
Comforting.
Yeah, exactly. And then it became more and more serious. And then I realized that, it was a way, it was sort of like I was a tourist, and then basically 9/11 happened, and I was like in school, and it really somehow really, really, really struck me. I didn't know anyone who was killed or whatever, but it was like crushing for me somehow. And I just decided like I was going to either self-destruct. I was like, I was like drinking.
Mind if I ask like what year you were in?
I was a senior in college at the time. So, which dates me, but was going to say is, it was
That's why I asked.
yeah, exactly. So and
Some
yeah, and at the time I was like drinking a lot and using substances and whatever, and I realized I was like, I'm either going to crash and like crush my life, or like I'm just either going down the path of self-destruction or the path of like freedom and like something else. And very, very luckily I just chose something else, and I just asked for help and get support to stop using substances. And that was the big turning point. That's when I started learning about using meditation. Right, I was always interested in using meditation all day long, but this idea of morality as a way to transform and become a different person I'd never thought of that before. I thought that like, if I lie, who does it hurt? Like, as long as I don't get caught, it doesn't matter. Or if I, dishonest
more
or
focused on yourself than.
Yeah, I had been much more focused. I had much more self-centered, and then not focused on helping other people or altruism or anything like that.
So, I guess I got one more question. I got to phrase it kind of carefully.
Sure. And if I don't answer, then
yeah, if you don't want to answer,
Sure.
well, I mean, I got to be careful too. Do you think you had more experiences that were not useful with these things that you're talking about?
You mean which things?
Like you had more experience with you had more experiences. That's all I can really say.
You mean with like drinking and drugs or?
Yeah, exactly. Let's just say substances.
Yeah.
That were not useful before you begin to find like the use in them. Of course, all speaking in a legal sense.
Yeah, well, don't worry. I mean, you're pretty anonymized here, so, and I haven't used any illegal or like self-prescribed illegal substances.
No, I mean, no one's saying anything. Yeah.
So the basic general gist here is that I was using substances to manage emotion and manage what was happening inside, not really realizing that's what I was doing. I'm just chilling, just partying, and just want to relax or whatever I thought at the time. But actually, it was like, if you can't just stop and you're just like, I'm just going to try to stop for a year and it's not a lot of effort. For me, at least, it means that there's a coping mechanism there. So I was coping, but it wasn't actually working. That was the thing. I looked around. I was like, okay, this isn't actually working. I wanted to like make me feel more calm or connected, or make me feel like more of a sense of like not worrying so much or not being so hard on myself or whatever. And it just didn't work.
No.
It was like it would work for a little while and then wouldn't work.
Yeah. I don't want to keep you for too long, but one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that experience before minimized the effect that I had later? Do you think like you lost some sort of like power from that, or
from which?
From your experiences before you used it in the correct way, or you had those experiences in the correct way? Do you think?
I see. So you're referring to like the guided psychedelic stuff.
You had guided meditation,
No, I don't think it.
I've experienced all that as well.
Yeah, I don't think that it like took anything away necessarily. It made me feel more like less afraid, I think, to some degree when I did it later with the proper guidance. But it was just, I mean, it's sort of, in a way, it's like I think everything. I don't really regret anything, so it's like I'm sure it was useful in many ways. I wish I had realized that it was a coping mechanism sooner and started to actually try to solve the actual underlying problems sooner. Although I had lived the life I lived, so I'm not going to like fight that. But if I could wave a wand, I probably would have much earlier on seen that I was, trying to cope rather than like anything else. That was a lot of my motivation, and that I was sort of in a way pretending to be a whole person, whereas actually I felt very like, fractured in some way. So I would use substances to make up for that. So yeah, that's generally my experience.
Yeah, I appreciate your honesty. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So Tyler, I'm going to pop you back into the waiting room. You can put the stream back on here. And I'll also mention here, I'll wait a second because you're probably still muted. I'll also mention that coping substances, my meditation experience has been that the depth of meditation has been way more psychedelic, way more transformational than pretty much almost any hallucinogenic substance I've taken. So just so you know, when I talk about the deep end of meditation, I'm talking about all of this stuff. And if you train the mind to get there, it's not like a substance you take and that comes and goes away and you're like, oh, well, listen, I think that was really impactful and I can't quite remember exactly what happened. It's just the fiber of your experience. Like, my experience of the world typically is quite psychedelic. It's quite sort of deconstructive all the time, and it's lovely, and I've learned to attune to that and not have it be disruptive in my life. But it's certainly more psychedelic than than substances I've taken, except for like little moments where something will be like very, very sort of strange in a moment, but things like that. No, Tyler, great to have you here. Happy as always to have you as a guest. So folks, great questions, appreciated by all, I believe. So folks, I have one last thing here left for you. That is a wish. Actually, hold on a second. Wait a minute. So, who else is online? Okay, none of our peeps are online right now, so we're not going to rate anybody. Okay, so folks, I have a wish for you at this particular moment right now. To look around, look at the world, look at that thing, to feel the sensations of what it feels like to have a body, to get a snapshot of our experience, whatever it is. The part of us that doesn't like ourselves, the part of us that fights reality, the part of us like, oh, something has to change, something's wrong, to accept that part in, just to allow that part to be there. Okay, there it is. This is the answer of how do you use meditation for procrastination, right? This is to recognize these different parts of ourselves and slowly over time to meet their needs. So my wish for you is in this moment, right here, right now, to tune into your experience. Tuning into your experience right now is the best likelihood of you being able to do it later when the challenge arises, when the difficulty comes. So to feel the sensations of the body, to be aware of this current experience. What is the material? What is the building blocks of this exact moment? To be kind to yourself no matter what's happening, to know that difficulty is a natural part of being a human and you are not doing it alone. We're here with you. Very happy to be here with you as always. Folks, as always, practice well, take care of each other, have some fun, and we'll see you all very, very soon.